Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And this is Dave.
Dave, we're going back to a show that we recorded in Louisville.
This is our time machine.
Oh yeah, what was it? 86? How fast we had to go? In Back to the Future, how fast do you go?
88 miles an hour.
88.
Yeah. Dave would know.
1.21 gigawatts.
Gigawatts.
That's what it is. That's what it takes.
Is that
By his
a real
calculations, by the time we get up to that speed, you should put you squarely back into February 13th,
mid-February?
14th, 13th, National Farm Machinery Show 2025. So we're here recording an intro, reflecting back on this show. We appreciate each and every one of you. This was just one of those conversations. It was too good to not share. We've never talked to a grass farmer.
We're going to get into the weeds. Because grass is a weed.
For you.
Because grass is a weed.
I'm sure he'd kill any corn that was in his grass.
And corn's a grass, so.
If he certainly could. This was filmed and recorded up on the Brant trailer. That was kind of like a nice little stage to hang out on.
It was one of our first ones we did there, too. Kind of a nice warm-up.
Yeah, it was. Listeners, again, if you've got somebody we should talk to, or maybe it's you, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. You can send us a message, 515-207-9640. Or Corey's personal cell phone number is...
You don't know that?
Yo 40.
You don't know that.
That's okay. Well, if you're fired up, it's been a day of recordings here. But we want to make sure we get a fresh intro in front of this. Think you can do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Go.
Today on the Farm for Fun show, as I stated, we are headed into the weeds up to the northwest of Oregon. We have a grass farmer on. This guy came highly recommended by one of our most prestigious listeners, Mr. Tony Reed, and prestigious guests. Tony sent us this probably a year or two ago, said, you got to get this guy on. He's a wealth of knowledge. He brought us books on grass seed.
They're sitting right out here.
So please stay tuned because this is an amazing episode where we dive deep into the world of grass. Please welcome from Bellfountain, Oregon, Mr. Orin Nusbaum.
Yeah. Well, Orin, welcome to the podcast. I'll tell listeners, your recommendations matter because we met Orin, what did we say, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yep.
2 years ago, and I think we promised him that we would do an interview, and here we are 2 years later.
Right.
So we don't miss when you send us these recommendations. Sometimes it takes us a little while to get to the guests, or email Tony Reed, because when Tony Reed says you have to interview this guy, we interview the guy. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been a listener for probably, I don't know, maybe a year after you guys started, and then I got so hooked I actually went back and listened to the old episodes. So, and then I've kind of fallen off the last year, so I apologize.
The worst of the worst.
Yeah.
We should do like a listen party sometime and go back and listen to one of the first ones.
Yeah. Wonder how that would be.
And just
Burn each other.
critique ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look, here's Dave with another 4-minute question.
Shoot holes in it.
Here's Tanner that says fantastic 17 times.
Yes.
And here's Corey, who's no idea where we're at in the conversation.
What?
Oh, wait.
Why not?
Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners the way you do, where you're from, what your farm looks like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm a 6th-generation farmer from Bellfountain, Oregon. We're predominantly grass seed, still have some beef cattle, fair bit of timber, but been married for 20 years to my wife, Mandy. My son's Van is 16, a junior, and my daughter is 10 and 4th grade.
Maximize your yield potential with John Deere Planter Precision Upgrade Kits. Planting's one of the biggest factors in your farm's success, but we know margins are tight, and a brand new planter might not be in the budget. But that's why John Deere gives you the power to upgrade.
Boost speed with Exact Emerge, optimize product placement with individual row hydraulic downforce, Exact Shot, and Furrow Vision, or enhance efficiency with Exact Rate. Don't forget about the upgrades in LED lighting and the frame weight distribution. Get the latest technology without replacing your planter.
Set yourself up for success this planting season. Visit johndeere.com or contact your local dealer today. Now, do you know the other connection that Orin has to a previous guest on the podcast? Dave wouldn't know yet.
I'm drawing a blank.
Jesse Bounds.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Jesse bales approximately 2/3 of our grass seed straw.
See, that show hasn't come out yet, so I
Right. But you
I
did the
didn't have
interview.
yeah, I know, but I didn't have my head wrapped around it.
This is neat because I was going to say, hey, you're the first guest we've got from Oregon, but we don't know what order the shows are going to air in.
Right.
So maybe you are the first guest we've had from Oregon.
Maybe the second.
You might
Maybe.
You might be the second.
Yep.
So that's kind of neat. We've never had a grass farmer on.
Okay, yeah.
What is it like growing grass? I guess what kind of grass do you grow?
So we're predominantly annual ryegrass. I like to say we farm the wet ground at the south end of Benton County that nobody else wants to farm. Annual ryegrass will withstand wet feet better than really any other species, and so on a certain amount of our acreage, that's pretty much the only real good option. We also grow some tall fescue. We have in the past grown perennial ryegrass. That production has really moved into the better drained soils as things in the valley have changed.
So annual, you're planting that every year.
Yeah, every year. We used to farm it every year. We'd actually moldboard plow every acre every year for a number of years. Moving towards, easier tillage, disking, and then we actually on a approximately half of the acres we're no tilling anymore.
Okay.
Just to save fuel.
Do you no-till grass into grass?
Yeah, usually. Yeah. Yeah, we've got acres, or we've got fields that have been in continuous annual ryegrass for over 40 years.
So, like in
Really?
corn, if we do that, which corn is a large grass, we get worried about root worms. Do you have grubs or worms like that you worry about?
Yeah, we have probably the worst problem we have is slugs. Actually,
Slugs.
Yeah, but it doesn't make a huge difference. Rotations don't make a huge difference on slugs. So yeah.
Is there products that you can use for slugs?
There is. Efficacy is always a problem, and we're so wet during the winter that most slug baits break down.
Okay.
Or just, it's hard to make slugs want to eat slug bait when there's green plants there. They'll take the green plant every time. So.
Okay. So walk us through a growing season.
Yeah, so like on the annual ryegrass, we'll normally plant that in September or the early part of October. Put it to bed with a fall herbicide, and then if we have to slug bait, we'll do that throughout the winter. Occasionally, we'll have cutworms as well. That one is like a once every 3-4 years kind of thing.
Okay.
But then throughout the winter, there's not a whole lot going on, and then usually about that spring break week in March, that's when we start thinking about fertilizer and also a broadleaf herbicide if we need that. And one thing that's come on in a big way in the last few years is we've started using a plant growth regulator to stimulate extra yield, limit the stem elongation.
We do a podcast on that.
PGR?
Yep, PGRs. Yep. That's really been a big thing in the last 20 years that's come on.
Yep.
And then harvest happens usually right about 20th of June. Anywhere from the 20th of June to the 1st of July, we'll swath the crop down, leave it in the swath for 10 days or so. We cut somewhere around 40% moisture, and so we've got to dry that down to 12% so we can harvest it, put it in the barn, and then we'll combine anywhere from about 4th of July clear out to 20th of July, or if we get a rainstorm, that'll delay it out to the 1st of August. And
So why do you swath? Just to let it dry?
yeah, just so it can dry.
And it wouldn't dry properly standing?
It would take so long that we'd shatter. Once it gets down under that 40%, it gets really prone to shatter, especially the annual ryegrass, tall fescue as well, but annual for sure.
Are you crimping it when you swath it?
No, we want to be as gentle on it as we can
and
eliminate shatter as much as possible.
And that by swathing it, it's not falling off or shattering?
Well, there's kind of a magic number there at about that 38%. After you get down below that, your shatter just increases exponentially.
Okay. And then, so you're coming back in with, I would imagine, a combine?
Combine, yeah.
And a pickup header?
Just a normal combine with a pickup header. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have to run, like, special concaves, or is there special things about a grass combine?
You guys probably don't even, and there's just very conventional, like you'd see, S-series Deeres and stuff. We actually, our two main combines are New Holland Super Conventionals. They're not common here at all. They're sort of common in Canada. And then we run I don't know if you've probably never even seen a spike tooth cylinder.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of a Rice thing, and they still build them, really pretty much for our market, I think, and Rice. But it's just spike teeth on the cylinder, and then concave with a stationary set of teeth.
So instead of like the rasp bars, it would be a spike tooth.
And the main reason we run those is they're a little less prone to plugging. We occasionally, especially if we have a rain, we'll have wet wads in the windrow, that don't like to go through, and so the spike teeth will just hog that through a little better.
Okay. So you get that. Does the combine do a pretty good job of cleaning the trash out, or do you have to go through another process of cleaning and all that?
Yeah, so we take it to the warehouse, and like the annual Rye Grass in particular, it has a pretty long beard or on the tip of the seed. It doesn't flow very well at all, and there's a fair bit of chaff and straw in it when it goes in. So we run it through a cleaning process. We run it through a debearder that knocks that on off, and then over an air screen cleaner, and then usually a set of Carter discs.
A debearder?
Yeah, that's what Corey did to get his mustache.
Yeah,
well played.
I mean, in real layman's terms, if you're familiar with a hammer mill, it's like a very, very simple hammer mill.
Got it.
Just to knock that on off.
So you go direct from the combine
to knock the on off.
Yeah.
The AWN.
It's an on-off switch.
Yeah.
So you go direct from the combine, the field, to the warehouse, or is there like a grain bin in between?
Well, so it's typically it's just done in flat storage, and then we got a loader tractor with a long pusher, and so we push it clear up to the ceiling, and it'll pack in pretty well.
Okay.
So yeah.
And at 38-40%, it's not too wet to store.
Well, by the time we actually run it through the combine, we're down to 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're swathing at that 40.
Yeah. And then you're ready to
that
store. Week, 10 days, we get it dried down to 12.
So we've heard of farmers that desiccate their soybeans or any bean crop to be able to control moisture. Could you desiccate?
I wouldn't say you couldn't, but Mother Nature does a good job of it in our part of the world. So we're a Mediterranean climate, so our rain turns off usually the first part of June, and we don't get rain in any consequential amount until September. So that's really our claim to fame in seed production.
Okay. So walk us through the marketing part. I mean,
so after combining, though, like Jesse told us, then he comes and bales the straw?
Right, yeah. So there's a fair amount of growers that bale straw. It makes everything a little simpler. There's less habitat for the slugs I mentioned if the straw is baled off. But you also pull a pretty significant amount of potash off, so you've got to replenish that over time. So we kind of play that straw market. If the straw market's up, we'll bale. If the straw market's down, we'll chop our straw back. And I guess I get a little nervous about taking all that organic matter off, year after year. So we've probably baled about as much as we should for a while, and I probably should be putting the brakes on that a little bit.
Sorry, Jesse.
But it's just for ease of tillage, ease of everything. It's the baling is attractive.
Yeah,
I got you.
And that check's nice too.
Sure.
Is there any combines that automatically bale afterwards?
That's been played with a little bit. I think
pull a baler behind the combine.
Yeah, I think it's been played with a little bit in our valley. I haven't actually seen it, but I've heard of it. I know New Zealand and Australia have really pushed that one a little harder than we have.
So back to your marketing question.
Yeah. So walk us through the marketing part. What was on? Did Rachel put something on me?
I don't know. It was a pink fluffy, probably from your girls' night last night.
Oh my.
We're used to Chicago Board of Trade on, corn, soybeans, wheat, and, this is the price you can call up your co-op and sell it for. How do you sell grass seed?
So a lot of growers just work strictly with production contracts. Okay. So they'll grow a variety X that's tied up with a seed company, and so they have to market it through that company at a set price. We do a little bit of that, but most of ours is open variety, and we actually have our own variety as well.
Okay.
So we're kind of an anomaly. My dad got very involved in selling direct to some co-ops down in the southern United States, co-ops and small feed and seed dealers. So Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and so those customers They market approximately probably half or 2/3 of our production right now.
Wow.
Which is nice for us because it gets us a lot closer to the end user.
Okay.
And a few more dollars that way as well. But it takes a little extra work.
And Monday, we just opened a new market for him.
Oh, it's a quiet one.
It is. Sorry, listeners were
Garbage
admiring the
cans.
garbage guy.
Because we
It's
had one
normally
this
loud
morning.
as heck.
Yeah. So
We opened a new market for him on
Yeah.
Monday. Sorry.
We did? Where?
The Frangipane.
Oh,
Frag-
yeah.
Man, yeah.
So
Did you hear that show?
Yeah, I did. So I actually I was supposed to fly into Louisville, but my flights got delayed out of Eugene. So I wound up getting diverted to Indianapolis and rented a car and drove down. And so I got in the car and I was like, well, I need a podcast. It was like 12:30 at night. I need a podcast to get me through this 2-hour drive. And so there's Farm for Profit. And, Lloyd Murdoch. So I haven't actually met Lloyd yet. We've worked with Lloyd for quite a few years on the Seed Commission, promoting cover crops. But I'm actually going to go to his field day next
in
month.
March?
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
We got invited to that too, and unfortunately we're going to be gone.
Preoccupied,
So we won't
yeah.
be able to
Sure.
go to that. But, man, that was a great interview. Dave wasn't
That was
feeling so
awesome.
well that morning, the whole day, really. But, yeah, so we got the opportunity. That really felt like a pivotal moment. I don't think we've ever talked about such a heavy thing on the – not heavy, but, like, I don't think we've ever been to
Impactful?
impact that many acres.
Like it
or
is going to
anything.
change. It's going to change their world
Oh yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal the work Lloyd's done.
Yep.
and potentially change yours because your ryegrass demand, your annual ryegrass should, as far as seed demand goes, should go up.
Yeah, definitely. We've been working on cover crops pretty aggressively on the Seed Commission for probably 20 years, and it's been one of those things. It's been a slow growth, but every year it feels like maybe this is the year that it just exponentially takes off, and it's been a slow ride, but it's definitely been an increase over 20
Well, and I
years.
think just as carbon programs, if those continue and things like that, people are going to be wanting something out
little
there,
bit more.
to get qualified.
Yeah.
So
Is there different varieties of rye grass genetics, like corn seed? My wife's always talking about non-ergot because she wants to feed it to cattle. And there's some fescue something. We can't feed that because it'll make the cattle
End of fight. Yeah.
end of fight free. There
Yep,
you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different varieties. There's a few open varieties, so just open market. Anybody can grow them, anybody can sell them, and then a lot of varieties are tied up with a particular seed company.
They are okay.
Yeah, so on the cover crop side, that's especially so north of I-70 in the colder zone. That's very variety specific. Like if you try to use just a common Gulf annual ryegrass, it'll die out typically over the
gotcha.
winter. You definitely want a cold tolerant variety.
So is cover crops most of your business?
So no, it's still a pretty small part.
Okay.
Our business on our farm, we're really tied to that forage overseed market down in the southern United States.
Okay.
We haven't really pushed the cover crop side yet, but we've got some seed companies and some growers that have started their own seed companies that really cater to
Yeah.
that cold tolerant variety market.
But there's a lot of guys probably in your area that are growing seed that you can go buy at Lowe's or Menards, right?
Yeah, totally. And so my dad and I actually went down and saw some of our customers back in September, and I'm a grass seed nerd. So when I walk into a feed store, or Menards or whatever, that's where I kind of gravitate to, and I turn the bag around, and especially you go to Home Depot, they've got the 5-pound bags that are blended from, so you can't really find out where the grower is. You can find the origin, what state it came from, and,
Right.
and most of it comes from Oregon. 90% of the cool season grass and legume forages come out of Oregon and turf as well. But you go to Tractor Supply down in the south, and you'll find full bags, 50-pound bags of annual ryegrass. And so if you live in the industry like I do, I've got a lot of the warehouse numbers memorized, and I've got a list. And so you go in and you look, and it's L8, L118. I can look on my list, and I know those guys. They're just across the river from me, kind of thing.
Okay.
Huh.
That's cool.
I think you're probably the only one that has warehouse numbers memorized.
Oh no, there's a lot of grass seed nerds where I come from.
So when you sell it, is it by the pound?
Yeah, so 50-pound bag is really kind of the industry standard. We've tried to push into the 2,000-pound, 2,500-pound super bags or totes.
So you've got to bag it.
We do, yeah. We bag it right off the cleaner.
You put a zipper on the top instead of that dumb string.
So our stock and trade is actually the valve pack bag.
Okay.
Where it slips, the pocket that slips over the auger.
Okay.
Just because we don't like dealing with sewing machines. But we still have to do it on tall fescue. Tall fescue, yeah. Tall fescue, usually the buyers want it in a.
So I planted in my yard. Fawn tall fescue.
Okay.
Fawn tall? Mm-hmm. Because fawns aren't
I have
that
no
tall?
idea. That's what the guy recommended, and it worked.
Yeah.
So.
There's probably better turf options out there than fawn, but
Yep.
fawn's a good forage.
We're not going to be able to keep Dave away from you after we get done with this. He's going to have all the science figured out.
Yeah.
So why?
But that's what you're here for today.
Yeah.
What's the logo on your shirt? And then we'll get to what Corey's holding.
Yeah, so the logo on my shirt is the Oregon Forage Seed Commissions. So there used to be 4 commissions. We actually rolled orchard grass into tall fescue a few years ago because it was a small commission. But the 4 commissions, or actually 3, used to come to this show, and they, one of them would be in this building and one over on the other side, and they rolled it all together about 15 years ago, just right before I got involved with the commissions, and really pooled the assets and made way more sense.
Yeah.
And was this book? Did you write this book?
No. I was chairman of Tall Fescue when we commissioned that book. So the gentleman that wrote that book, Gary Lacefield and Don Ball, and Carl Hovland as well, who's since passed away, they've worked with the Oregon seed industry for over 40 years.
Gotcha.
Dr. Ball is professor emeritus at Auburn University down in Alabama, and then Dr. Lacefield is professor emeritus here at University of Kentucky. Just tremendous gentlemen.
So this is a pretty cool book. It says it's the Wonder Grass, the story of tall fescue in the United States, and it's all personalized to each one of us, to Corey,
Wow.
to Dave, to Tanner, and it says something about each one of us.
Yeah.
I
What
can't
is-
read yours out loud, Dave.
And what does Dave say?
It says you really suck at podcasting.
It says,
No, you suck at picking grass hybrids. Is probably what it
Yeah.
says.
That was a stupid fescue that you planted.
did you say I'm good at smoking grass? Is that what yours says?
So
No,
what?
I know you guys are busy here at the show, but if you have a spare moment, you ought to stop by the booth over there
Cool.
and meet
Sure.
those guys. They're just tremendous.
So, give me the Cliff Notes version of this book. What are they talking about?
So it's been a while since I've read it, and I don't want to get details wrong, but they talk about an extension agent back in 1931 was on his way to I think it was like a cake judging contest.
Yeah.
And stopped off at a farm where he saw some grass that looked unique and took some samples of it and took it back to the university. And because I think it was a drought year and everything else was dead, and this one field looked pretty sharp. And so anyhow, they started producing it, and then they figured out that it had that endophyte in it that produced alkaloids that made the plant stronger and more able to withstand drought. Unfortunately, the alkaloids, as Dave mentioned earlier, also cause a little bit of havoc in animals, especially when they're heat stressed in the summertime. But it does make a very, very hardy plant.
Oh, it looks really well done.
So then there was a big push back probably in the 80s, early 90s to non-endophytes
Yep.
to eliminate those problems. The trouble with the non-endophytes is it's not as hardy of a plant. It doesn't last as long.
Must be because my wife graduated in 98, something like that, and like she is a Nazi. Like, you bought the wrong seed.
Yeah.
You can't have that. Our cattle can't have that. Yep.
And then I'd say in the last 10 years, there's been a big push to novel endophyte varieties that have a different endophyte that's not toxic to animals,
Oh, really?
but it does protect the plant. So, yeah, that's been the big movement in tall fescue.
Cool.
So Dave has cattle, and he lives on Sandhill
Trail.
So it's very sandy ground.
Sandburrs all the time.
He struggles to get much free yield and quality. So what should he be planting?
You know, that novel endophyte tall fescue would be a good fit. Orchard grass could be a good fit as well.
Yeah, and every time I go to an agronomist, this is what they say. You should do that Versa grass. It's got 25% Timothy, 25% rye, 25% orchard, a little bit of brome in there. One of them's going to work.
Here's the problem.
That's what they say
with
every
an
time.
agronomist.
Honestly, the shotgun approach is not too bad.
Okay, that's
I know a
every
lot
time.
of people that do that. Yeah.
Yep, but Versa grass. That's what
And
they
that's
say.
the safe play. But, I mean, you got to remember, when you're talking to an agronomist in central Iowa, we know corn and soybeans.
Correct.
Sure.
I mean, heck, even 20 years ago, we lost the agronomy side of it when Roundup came out. They're just like, oh yeah, just go spray Roundup, it'll kill the weeds. But now everything's kind of coming back full circle. They're going to have to learn cover crops. They're going to have to learn grass. They're going to have to learn herbicides that they've never heard of before because Roundup doesn't work. So it's
Has there been much movement in cover crops in your area?
It's a little bit. It's incremental every year.
Yeah.
I would say there's definitely been some guys that have finally started adopting it. We've played around with it on our farm. And know where we can and can't use it. I went to more strip till instead of full tillage, and then now at some point I want to implement the covers in between my strips.
Oh, sure.
Type of a deal. So I haven't got to that point yet because I haven't perfected my strip till side. But and like I said, as carbon comes along, people will learn how to do it and do it good.
So I think I heard you talk about it on the episode with Dr. Murdoch, but. Have you used annual ryegrass? You used cereal rye.
I use cereal rye.
Cereal rye.
Yep, I have not used annual.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So
cereal would be the large seed.
Yeah.
It looks like wheat.
Yep.
Out there, right? Yep.
Yeah. It's unfortunate they have such a similar name and they're both cover crops because there used to be a huge amount of confusion between the two. It's gotten a little bit better.
Yep.
Is there we're at the machinery show here, is there a best piece of equipment for putting grass in?
If you can do it early enough, a drill works really well. But especially in that colder zone, getting it on early, even before the soybeans or corn comes off, is pretty important. So a lot of people fly it on. There's been some work with high boy sprayers with
the drop tubes.
Drop tubes, yeah.
Slash plates.
Yeah, that's
really.
Yeah, that's worked out pretty well. But getting it on early, I'd say, very first part of September has been.
That's
very
our
crucial.
biggest challenge.
Yeah,
is it
that's
has to
the
be
problem.
on when the crop is growing.
Yeah,
so.
that's the biggest advantage to the cereal rye is you got a little more leeway before cold weather hits.
Yep.
I put cover down this year and it didn't grow
you
at all.
just put oats.
Yep. But it just didn't.
And you did it because there was a program for it.
There was a program for it. So
Sure.
It was also a dry fall when you put it down.
yeah.
And it
then
never germinated.
It never germinated. Yep.
And it flash germinated. It germinated and then it froze.
Yeah.
So is that you mentioned when you were telling us how you went through the process? You said you put it to bed with herbicide.
Correct. Yeah, we use a selective herbicide in the fall.
Just like a fall herbicide.
Yeah, it's actually a sugar beet herbicide. It's called Nortron, and it's one of those that I think it happened sort of by accident. People tried to use it on annual ryegrass and it didn't kill it, and so they decided, hey, this would be a good herbicide for using for annual ryegrass.
Oh.
So yeah, that takes out a lot of the weeds we fight. Poa annua, Poa trivialis, bluegrasses.
Do you ever play around with other crazy varieties or new things grass seed wise?
Not too many.
Tall one.
Oh yeah, it
was like 8 foot tall or 12
listener
foot tall.
we met coming from Pennsylvania. They
Almost
grow
looked like
it.
bamboo.
It said it was thick like bamboo. It grew taller than the chopper for the silage chopper, and it was a forage.
I'd hate to think about trying to get that through a combine.
Well, they harvested with a forage harvester. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
But oats or anything like?
We'll grow grain occasionally.
Yeah.
The last few years the prices have been so terrible. It's just hard to. Grass seed just fits us better. But when wheat price is up, we'll grow some wheat, and occasionally we'll grow some oats if we've got open ground and don't have other good options.
Yeah.
And none of yours is irrigated?
We irrigate some. We've actually got a couple pieces of property that we have to maintain the water rights on, so we have to irrigate every so often. Tall fescue, if we plant it in the fall, we'll irrigate it up, and our ground holds moisture really well, so there's not a great fit for irrigation in the spring typically, but if we get a really dry spring, we can irrigate in the spring as well. But it's a pretty limited amount of acres.
What's a good yield?
So, when I was a kid, on annual ryegrass, I used to be really happy with 2,000 pounds a ton to the acre, dirt weight. We typically have about 10% clean out. Anymore, with better fertility and better varieties, if we're not up above 2,500, I'm pretty disappointed on annual ryegrass. Tall fescue, I used to be really happy with, 850, 900 pounds, and that one anymore in the modern day on healthy stands, we like to be 1,500 or better.
Yeah.
Is there a market if one of our listeners bought ground, whatever, and like, hey, I like this grass idea? Is it really just in the Northwest, or is it anywhere in the country that could grow grass? And yeah.
You know, anybody can grow it. I mean, I think there's grass seed grown in most of the states. Where they struggle is getting it dry. You know, that's where we really shine is just the climate we have. Missouri, in particular, grows a lot of tall fescue, but it's kind of a feast or famine thing there. If they get too much rain or the price is down and they just graze it, you know, so they can really impact our market in a big way. If they have a big yield, we're pretty much guaranteed a low price, and if they have a low yield,
Missouri is the
helps our
Brazil
price.
of.
Because you got a guy down around you that tries to grow grass, and it seems like every time he swaths it, we get rain.
Who's trying to grow great? I got a lot of sod farmers around me.
Just outside of Alleman.
I was going to say there's some sod farmers.
Sod.
I know, but I thought we saw it combining that one. Was it last summer we saw him combining the grass seed? I thought it was organic. He was transitioning to organic.
That was it's a grass that you can harvest the head for yearly. It's kind of like a wheat. But
okay.
Man, now you put me on the spot.
Well, I can take you off the spot.
Sorghum?
I got
No,
a couple
no,
of
no.
ag
I'll
facts.
find
It's
it.
been kind of fun at this show to see if I can get Dave and Corey not to look at their sheet and play along with you and see what kind of knowledge you had. You already dropped one in here that said over 90% of grass seeds grown in Oregon.
Where have you guys been?
We just got back from the Custom Harvesters event where operators from across the country couldn't stop talking about Steinbauer performance modules.
Yeah, they're seeing up to 25% more power, better fuel efficiency, all with smarter injector duration and not altering the rail pressure for safe and reliable performance.
If you're looking to maximize your machine's potential, go to steinbauer.us and tell them Farm for Profit sent you to get yours today. So, what percentage of watermelon is water?
Oh boy.
Same theme.
Yeah, a lot. 85.
Well, it's over 90.
Really? Wow.
92% of watermelon is water. Also timely, due to what we're seeing in the news right now. On average, how many eggs does an American eat a year?
Less now.
Probably. Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, that's
Less
probably
now.
dropping by the day.
The average American?
The average American eats each year
Let's say one every third day, so 100.
more.
So does that count what goes into baked goods and everything? That's
Well,
yeah,
I think
it
it
has to.
would.
okay. So
think it
so
would.
not just fried eggs and okay. 250.
Nailed it.
Really?
Literally on the spot, 250 eggs.
Sweet.
Okay.
Money.
How many peanut butter sandwiches can you make from 1 acre of peanuts?
Oh, wow.
Yesterday I asked if a peanut was a nut. It's
Is it-
not. It's a legume.
Is it chunky or smooth?
Is there a
1 acre.
who uses chunky
First, we
peanut
got to
butter?
know like how many
like
peanuts
it.
you get on an acre.
I don't know that answer.
We'll have to talk to Randy about that one.
I should know that. I actually got to see peanut harvest this last fall when I
Yeah?
was down in the south.
I'm just going to throw a crazy number out there. 1,000 sandwiches out of an acre.
You're not high enough.
Yeah,
bet
I
it's
was
more.
going to say it'd be more like 10,000.
Not high enough.
Really?
It says more than 30,000 peanut butter sandwiches.
Holy cow.
Wow.
You guys must not
Well, that
use-
depends on how
I
thick
was going
you
to say, you
spread
might
it, though.
not use as
I
much
spread
peanut
it pretty
butter. I'm
thick.
pretty
yeah.
thick. Yeah.
So if it's peanut butter and jelly, do you put the peanut butter on the bottom or is the jelly on the bottom?
the bottom, I put peanut butter on one side
Yeah, and you put them
and
together.
jelly on the other
Yeah,
side.
I do it Dave's
so which
way.
one's the bottom?
It doesn't matter.
You put the two slices together, something has to be on the bottom.
I don't know that I've ever had a bottom.
I'm not
Okay,
that
do you
scientific, I
do you
guess.
spread the peanut butter first or the jelly first?
The peanut butter, because if you got to wipe the knife off on the top of the peanut butter, your wife will get pissed if there's jelly on it. So you got to do the peanut butter first. Then the jelly is liquefied enough you can kind of like shake it out and then cut it off real quick.
I've never heard that.
I was waiting for Dave to say that he squeezes it out of the squeeze tube.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
jelly.
we do that too. We got that. Yeah.
'Cause why don't you just wipe the peanut butter off on the other piece of bread instead of the top of the jar?
Yeah.
I had a lieutenant at the fire station. Just it pained him if you wiped it off on the peanut butter jar. So we always did.
Yeah.
All right, last one. The amount of saliva that a cow produces each day could fill up what man-made object?
Oh my goodness. A
The
55-gallon drum.
Oh, you're not far off, I think, volume-wise.
A bathtub then.
A bathtub.
Serious. Wow.
Some of these bathtubs could be pretty big, though.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy. I found my deal. Kernza.
Kernza.
Have you ever heard of Kernza?
I've not.
Yeah. Well,
Look
see,
into
I
that.
stumped the grass guy.
Isn't that
Stump the grass
isn't
guy.
that a sandwich place in Nebraska? I know that's Runza.
That's Runza. No,
Runza.
Kernza is like I don't know if it's old. I think it's old, and it just it's a low-growing grass, but you can constantly. It's got a big enough hit seed that you can combine it, and you
Okay.
can make whiskey out of it.
So I wonder if that's probably a warm season grass.
It must be.
That cool season is really all we do.
So there was that distillery in Wisconsin that we went to a couple summers ago. We did a field day up there. They had a Kernza whiskey there.
Oh,
And I had to try it.
right.
I had to try it.
Had weird drywall there too.
Yeah, they did. They did.
a couple years ago, a distillery out in Oregon did a Rye Grass whiskey, and it was actually pretty good.
Really?
I should have bought more bottles of it. I think it's out of production now.
Oh no.
What there's bunch grass, and then there's like if we're planting it with a drill and it like seems to just be in rows like this. How do we get it to fill in? Does it all just have to be bunch grass style?
Yeah, it'll fill in over time. Like I've got a field that's pretty old. I think it's in the upper 20 years. You can't find the rows anymore.
Oh, really?
But it takes a long time. I
I
mean,
hesitate-
you can just broadcast.
That's where I've been doing the like a cultipacker with plugs, but it does
Oh, yeah.
plug. It's got like a plug roller on the front, drops the seed,
Yep.
and then comes back over it with a normal cultipacker on the backside. That's what I've been finding is the best equipment for the grass. But
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then I've known people to want to not have the rows show up so much, so they'll drill at a half rate, and then they'll drill the other way at a half rate,
Ah.
so it kind of checkerboards and fills in a little faster.
More fuel. Yep.
Yep.
So we're the Farm for Profit podcast. What's the most profitable grass to grow?
Oh, yeah.
Year in, year out, annual ryegrass is kind of the black sheep of the South Valley or the Willamette Valley grass seed world.
Yeah.
Just because it's typically been a low price. This last year, tall fescue was a terrible price, and annual ryegrass was kind of the shining star of the grass seed world. So I guess you wait long enough, things will come around.
And who's setting that though? Just your contracts, whoever the end users are?
Yeah, it's really just pretty much driven by demand.
Okay. Is there crop insurance?
No, not currently. There's some work to see. We had a terrible yield. I think it was 2 years ago, 23, especially on the tall fescue. Might have been 22, one of those 2 years. And so there's some work to try to get that established, but it's a slow go.
Okay. Is there a lot of in-season fertilizing?
So yeah, we put on about 150 units of nitrogen in the spring.
Yep.
140, 150.
And that doesn't give you too much vegetative growth and not enough seed, or
It's kind of a balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Corey, AI said alfalfa, and then Napier grass, and then switchgrass, and then
the most profitable.
and then
Well,
Timothy
alfalfa's
grass.
not a grass.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
ChatGPT said.
You might need to check yourself there.
Chat needs to read the book that we just got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read this book and tell me. Well, it would tell you tall fescue.
That'd be
right?
Claude.
Yep.
Yep. So, that's cool. I mean, we've talked to several grass growers along our travels, and it's always interesting to see.
You guys
your
need to
guys'
come out to
mind.
Oregon. We can show you how it's done.
We have a lot of places to go.
We do.
We got to stop going to these trade shows, and we got to start going to these cool places.
Got to get our
I mean, this is
bus.
a cool place.
Got to get our
much,
bus or RV.
How much GPS is used in harvest of grass? Is everything AB lines, your swathers? I mean, is everything?
Very little adoption in harvest. I mean, we use a lot of GPS on tillage and planting and spraying and all that. Harvest, not so much. We don't use any, other than the only GPS application we really have in harvest is we do use yield monitors. Traditionally, all the grass seed was cut with sickle windrowers, either with an auger header or we actually run a draper header on our farm.
Okay.
But there's been some movement in the last 10, maybe 15 years to rotary windrowers. And so instead of going, 5 to 6 miles an hour, you're running 12, 15 miles an hour.
If you can sit in the seat.
Yeah, and so it's hard to steer at that kind of speed. So a lot of folks are running, GPS and cutting on AB lines instead of round and round.
I
Like
even
we
did
do.
that with my hay crop in my little 9-foot rotary.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You go fast.
I've slowed down, I'm going to say. I went too fast at first. I have fences around the outside of my stuff, so you got to go slow.
Okay.
For the first pass.
I demoed a rotary windrower a number of years ago, and I was tireder after 6 hours in it than I am in 12 hours in my sickle machine.
Right.
So we're sticking with the sickles for a while, but probably eventually we'll go to the rotaries.
So give us your elevator pitch for each of your grass varieties that you grow.
Yeah, so that I grow. So, annual ryegrass, it's a great fit for the overseed market in the South where their dominant pastures are Bermuda grass, Bahia grass, warm seasons. They'll brown off and not produce any forage after about November, depending on the season. So if they broadcast some annual ryegrass, maybe throw in some crimson clover and blend that with fertilizer and spread it on right before they get some rain, that'll give them forage, throughout the winter months, and then that dies out in the spring, and their Bermuda grass or Bahia grass comes back. Tall fescue is a great fit for this area, the mid-south and Midwest. Just a great, very hardy forage. Millions of acres of it around.
So tons and quality. Is that
Yeah, definitely.
okay?
Good. That's cool. We knew nothing about grass coming into this. That's not true. We've talked to Orin before.
You
At
probably
least I
don't know a
have.
whole lot more now. I'm sure you
do.
could have found more knowledgeable people than me to talk about this. But
we've got books to read when we get back to the studio. We appreciate those gifts. We appreciate
happy.
your willingness to participate and your flexibility for making this time work for you.
Yeah, no, it's pretty easy. We've got a number of growers that come from Oregon to work the booth, so we like to have time to get out and see things and meet people.
We could have just read this book, Keys to
Profitable
Forage
program.
I love it.
There's your title.
That's good. Well, thanks again, Orin. Corey, what do you tell the listeners?
I got one more. If people want to find you online,
Yeah, so there's actually some websites on the back of there. So ryegrass.com, tallfescue.com. If you just search Oregon Forage Seeds, we'll come up.
yep.
And your farm has a Facebook page?
I have a Facebook page. I haven't been very active with it lately. I guess I've gotten lazy. I've just been too many irons in the fire.
That happens.
I played around with TikTok for a while and just ran out of time to mess with it. But, yeah.
Too many seeds in the field.
Yeah. uh-huh.
There you go.
Jesus.
Maybe I'll get more active. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I
right.
say crack a cold one. You deserve it.